What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Jalen Talks Sports. And today we're going to be talking about NFL coaches who need to go. Okay. So, the first coach, I think that was predictable. Not because he's a bad coach, but because he's the talk of the town. Kevin Stefanski, head coach of the Cleveland Browns. I want him gone. When I mean gone, I want him out of there. I don't want to see him coaching this team anymore. Kevin Stefanski, at his core, isn't a bad head coach. Kevin Stefanski, at his core, is a prideful individual who has an ego, like a lot of us do. And his ego is saying, I need to ride Dylan Gabriel instead of Shadir Sanders. They have an excellent defense, especially this guy wearing number 95. Miles Garrett. He's insane. I just watched him sack my quarterback, Drake May, 5 times in one game. That is like the Browns' record for sacks in a game or something like that. He's insane. But he's wasting his career playing for the Browns because this team will never, ever, ever be serious about winning if the current leadership stays in charge. Enough about the defense. The biggest problem with this team is this quarterback position, this quarterback controversy. Dylan Gabriel, I've seen enough. Dylan Gabriel, I don't want to see anymore. Dylan Gabriel is not good at quarterback in the NFL. Dylan Gabriel in college, we can have a conversation. But NFL Dylan Gabriel, I don't want to see it anymore. Or I don't want to see it next week or the week after. Give me a fresh look. Stefanski is going to be on the hot seat because of this right here. His unwillingness to give Shadur an opportunity. I don't know. I don't think Shadur is really that amazing, but I think he's probably better than Doug Gabriel. And if you believe so highly in Dylan Gabriel, play Shadur one time. Just play him once. And if he does bad, we'll subject to what you said. We'll believe that Dylan Gabriel is more prepared, more ready, deserves all the first team reps. I'll buy into all the BS you're telling me if you give the kid a shot and he doesn't do well. Because then I'll believe you or I'll agree with you saying he's not ready or he's not good enough to be the starter yet. But if you're not going to give him a chance and you're going to make all these snarky remarks and all these beating around the bushes answers, me, the fan, them, the media, the team is going to feel away. He's going to lose the locker room. And I think he's already starting to lose it with how he's handling this specific situation. Next team, Aaron Glenn, head coach of the Jets. Um, I had given this a pretty decent ranking in my head coaching hires video. And it proves that sometimes you're wrong. I don't think Aaron Glenn is a bad coach. I think Aaron Glenn is in a really, really bad situation. But when you perform badly, how long are you given? The league is cutthroat. The league is a business. You realize that as a player and you realize that as a coach. Coaches get blamed for a team doing bad all the time. And oftentimes, you got to look at it from their perspective and say, I'm not on the field. I might have the best game plan in the world, but if I put these players out there and they're unable to execute that, is that really on me or is it on them? Because I don't make the hit. I don't throw the pass. I don't catch the ball. I just say, get on the field, timeout, challenge. I manage the game. And the Jets, as long as I've been a fan of football, never seem to get it right. And I don't know this time if it's him or if it's just the team that's just bad. I think he's doing a good job with the culture aspect of the job, which you've seen Dan Campbell had ingrained into the Detroit system. They didn't start well there, and now they're a perennial playoff team. They're Super Bowl contender type team. So with Aaron Glenn, I'm not saying he's going to be fired, but if they don't start producing some results soon, that might very well be the case, and he might not see a second season. Jonathan Gannon, coach of the Cardinals. I believe he's been there for about 3 years now, 2 to 3 years now. And the Cardinals haven't done anything to impress me. And then you had a little incident where he hit the player, just trying to fire him up, and he got fined for it. He seems to just not be the right fit for the head coaching role in Arizona. The team is a little shaky, I will say that. But they have a good amount of talented pieces. And you really have a 2 to 3 year window in the NFL if you do decent enough at the start. But once you reach that third, fourth year and you're still not getting results, you're still not making the playoffs, the team, the owner, the general managers, they're going to look at you and they say, where's my results? What am I paying you for? And that's what I think could very well happen with Arizona Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon. Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel at his core isn't a bad coach. Mike McDaniel at his core is what do you want to call it? What would I call it? He thrived off the fact that he was placed in a really good situation in San Francisco, where he ran Kyle Shanahan's offense, which seems to just work consistently. I was speaking about this with someone where I told them 3 years ago that if Mac Jones was drafted instead of Trey Lance, he'd be winning a whole bunch of games for the 49ers. And now you see that's happening. And that's exactly what the 49ers are, a system team. If you escape that lens of them just being a system team, Mike McDaniel isn't anything too special. But Mike McDaniel isn't a victim of just his team being bad. Mike McDaniel is not a head coach. The league has sort of shifted from hiring the best option and they've gone for the coordinator route. And it's like if you run amazing offense or amazing defense, you deserve to become the top head coaching candidate. And it's no longer about a guy running a culture, setting a standard within the locker room. Mike McDaniel is a really good offensive football brain. But outside of that, what is Mike McDaniel? He's just a guy that I think the team doesn't necessarily respect. They just see him as, oh, he's the coach. But he's my friend. But he's my friend. And that's what's going to be the downfall of him. But it's also going to be the downfall of Chris Greer, the GM. He needs to go. He's been there way too long. And then, you know him. Tua doesn't make it any easier because Tua's not that good. I remember when Tua was in college and he took Jalen Hurts' job, and I was so hurt by that. You know, hurts. I was hurt by that because I didn't think Tua was that great. He was just uh right person, I mean right place, right time type of situation. Objective luck, if you want to say. Circumstantial luck, actually. It's circumstantial. He was in the right circumstance to succeed. When you have such talent at the receiver and running back and offensive line and defense, it's not necessarily the hardest thing to do for Tua. But now when you see him in Miami with a bad O line but really decent receivers, he's not being anything too special because the talent was never really necessarily there. He could fit in like the 90s or the 80s, excluding the physicality aspect. His play style fits that a lot better. But in today's game, Tua is not a game changer. Tua is a game manager, and that gets you nowhere. Hot seat. These are guys I don't necessarily think will be fired, but I think they have a shot. There's a shot, like it's a shot in the dark. Pete Carroll. I talked about him in the same video, him and Kellen Moore and Aaron Glenn in the new coaches hiring video. And what I did say about Pete Carroll, I believe I said that he's a good hire for now, but how sustainable is it? Because he's already up there in age. And that might need to end extremely fast, that experiment. Because you can't get a guy like Pete Carroll and not compete instantly. You can't rebuild with Pete Carroll, especially at Pete Carroll's age. It's just not going to work. I think the Raiders need to shift to a coach that you can really have for that rebuilding period. I think in the offseason, you'll see them draft a quarterback. You'll see Pete Carroll leave. And they just need to get into the mindset that they're not good. They're not good. And they need to build a team. They just don't insert this guy and everything is gonna change. Helen Moore, he's in a really tough spot. The Saints job is one of those jobs. If I was an offensive coordinator in the league, I'd be like, hello, Saints. And then I'd be like, I think I'm gonna stay with my job. This is not a job you leave the Philadelphia Eagles for. Yes, the money is gonna change your life in some aspect, but this is not a job that you want right now. I don't think he will get fired because this team is horrible. And it's not really his fault. It's the construct of the team that makes them not function as a cognitive unit, like a mitochondria. There's no cell, bro. It's not working. And they just need to get some things right in the offseason to give him a real shot at it. I think that's a guy you reevaluate next year. Dable. Dable, I've always been a Dable believer, but how far can we go with Dable? How long could you say, oh, give him another year? It gets to that point. That first year, they made the playoffs, and I was like, okay, yeah, this was a really good hire. But then since then, what have you done for me? Nothing. And you can say, well, he picked Jackson Dart. They identified that he was the right option, not Tyler Shuck and not Shader and not Dylan Gabriel. They picked Jackson Dart and he's so good. No, he's not that good. Calm down. He's all right. I'm not saying he's bad, but he's not special enough for me to say, yes, okay, I'll give you another year with the kid. I think he might survive because Jackson Dart has surprised people in some way, shape, or form. Looks like they identified a competent quarterback to move forward with. But if they don't start to get some wins, that notion may be knocked out the door. And then last but not least, John Harbaugh. He's he's hard to talk about because he's being so successful over his tenure with the Ravens. I think it's time. It feels like a Mike Tomlin sort of thing, where it's like you've been there so long that you just started to accept the status quo. And you're just like, he's done good for me in the past, so I'm not gonna veer from him. And you saw how that affected my team, the Patriots, down the line with Belichick, where we just wouldn't let go once the going really got rough. And you see now that once we actually let go, we needed a new face. We needed a spark in the organization to shift us, to push us forward. It was very with Vrabel. They thought they were gonna get that with Mayo, but they got it with Vrabel. And I think that's sort of what needs to happen with the Ravens. I think Harbaugh is just tired out now. I think they just need something new. He's not a bad coach, and he's done well for that team. But I think they've reached that point where it's that time. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in back to Jalen Talk Sports. I'll see you in the next video. Make sure to like, subscribe. Let me know what you think, what coaches you think should be fired if I didn't mention them. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out.